Hey, quick question, by the way. Why is it that when I look up right now on YouTube, trans guns DOJ, which should bring up, I think, like a pretty pressing bit of news, the mix of, we'll say, journalistic quality that I get is not exactly encouraging. Look at this. Okay. The Hill, live now from Fox, The Bulwark, like, no hate. The Young Turks, Timcast IRL, Guns and Gadgets Second Amendment News, Timcast IRL, Timcast, Langley Outdoors Academy, the VSO Gun Channel. Any nothing from like even Fox or CNN or MSNBC or CBS or nothing? We don't believe in that? You do watch a lot of Fox News? Yeah, so why aren't they here? Live now from Fox is not the same as Fox News. Yeah, YouTube doesn't believe in this. Choose the worst one. Worst one would probably be Timcast IRL, right? But also, like, this shit be boring as...
The Independent, Trump looking to ban transgender people from having a gun and declaring them mentally ill. Oh, boy.
Based. I'm just preempting the quality of the conversation.
The DOJ is reportedly considering a proposal to restrict trans Americans from possessing, baselessly alleging trans people are...
Imagine watching a live streamer read out loud from an article. Couldn't be me.
...predisposed to... from establishment. And when I asked it about black men, it said...
No, I think that about... That gets us about what we... Yeah, no, okay. Okay. That was a representative sample. That is really funny. And then there's a different one on the Timcast channel. Langley Outdoors Academy. I don't know what that is. I don't know what Langley Outdoors Academy. Guns and Gadgets Second Amendment News.
This might just be my most controversial video I've ever done, while at the same time being the biggest piece of constitutional advocacy I've ever done.
Dude, look at the ad lineup just in the beginning. I need to do this more often. Okay, hold on. Here's a QR code for Guns and Gadgets. I bet that's got to be his site, right? Okay. And now here's the Patriot Mobile Mobilizing Freedom. And see, it's got the stars and bars right here in the center. Very good, very good. Okay, and look, that stays up on screen for like a long time. Here's Patriot Mobile coverage. And listen, Patriot Mobile, like, can you imagine, man, when all of the like wannabe guerrillas take to the hills, the next presidential administration rolls over and the ATF just finds every single cell signal on this network and deploys like hit teams to them? Jesus Christ. Nobody is on Patriot Mobile unless they own some kind of illegal firearms. And then down there, we have the Guns and Gadgets Follow Me. Would you guys still love me if I did this? What if I made 50% of every video shameless self-promotion and like ad reads? Would you like me still? Would you still love me? Would you love me if I was a worm?
Wire has reported that the Trump Justice Department is reviewing options to prevent mentally ill individuals suffering from gender dysphoria, i.e. transgender people, from obtaining firearms while they're deemed unstable or unwell. Who deems them that? Now, the language used here, mentally ill, is not only...
Hold on. The way this guy's talking makes me think that he's against it. Are we about to see some principled behavior from Second Amendment guys?
Inflammatory, it taps into decades of stigma. So who makes that decision? The Department of Justice? I don't think they're doctors. Now, this comes right after...
Shall not be infringed upon, huh? All right. Okay. There we go. The NRA is even against this. Well, that's nice to see. So, folks, to be clear, there is absolutely no path forward for a transgender gun ban. Well, you know what? Maybe we've started with the wrong foot forward, okay? Let's go to the Washington Post. Let's go to WAPO, okay? WAPO, take it away. The DOJ has been discussing a potential ban on trans people owning firearms. So let's not parse this. This is explicitly what the Nazis did with the Jews. We don't have to qualify it. Like, we don't have to like go, oh, in this case, it's just explicitly what they did. It's just the direct targeted a minority group you are disempowered, disarmed, other people aren't. Yeah, they did exactly that. So we don't have to qualify the statement at all. However, it's worth noting, and I think it's very, very important to keep this in mind, there is no legal route for this to happen. Like, if this was implemented, so first of all, this can't be done through executive action. It would have to be a law, I believe, because while the ATF does make decisions about qualifications for firearm purchases, I'm pretty sure. Well, actually, wait, hold on. Actually, wait, could this be done via executive order? Because it is technically an administrative action. Would that not? I'm pretty sure that a degree, like a change of, no, because it's not only like the ATF isn't deciding for itself what allows you to have a gun, right? The ATF is merely making decisions about how to advocate for or enforce the laws that are already passed by Congress. Congress would have to come out and pass a new law. So the idea of getting Congress to pass that legislation, already a non-starter, but if that ever did happen, it would get buried by every single group, legal group, from every single direction. It would be impossible to defend. The right is so dogmatic on firearm advocacy. I don't think this could ever survive. I don't think it'd be possible. So this is a non-starter. Like, this is a virtue, or I should say, a vice signal from the biggest Hitlerites in modern society, proving to each other and themselves how based and red pill they are, right? It is not feasible. The ATF stretches so many laws to basically be entirely new laws. I know that there's a lot of leeway there, but I feel like for something like this, it would be really, really difficult for them to get away with. In any case, whether it's through executive order or through legislation, it's a non-starter. So we're only talking about a vice signal here, right? But I'm not going to lie. I can't believe it. I can't believe I would ever see the day where the NRA would be principled. Keep in mind, like, gun rights have always been advocated for unequally in this country. You know, Reagan was dogmatic about gun rights up until the Black Panther Party started spooking him when he was a governor of California. It's been like this for ages, right? There's not principled advocacy along these lines. But the NRA supports the Second Amendment rights of all law-abiding Americans to purchase, possess, and use firearms. The NRA does not and will not support any policy proposals that implement sweeping gun bans that arbitrarily strip law-abiding citizens of their Second Amendment rights without due process. Shit, okay. Hasn't the NRA been kind of like falling out of favor with the right lately? Like, the NRA has not been the super powerful funding and advocacy bulwark for the right that it used to be. Over the past decade, I think that their funding's dried up a bit. There's less momentum. They're too boomer coded. A lot of them don't even like Trump that much. Like, it's a bunch of 75-year-olds with, you know, like fucking pickup trucks and long rifles. They're not like young neo-Nazis or whatever, you know? Doomsday bunkers? No, actually, the doomsday bunker prepper types have long considered the NRA to be overly conservative. I mean that. Like the NRA has always tried to be like a big tent pro-gun organization. Their rhetoric has played into like neoconservative racism, not hyper freak like Appalachian doomsday bunker paranoia. You know, there's an element of that that's been present within the within the NRA, but it's too big tent for that. The vast majority of conservatives aren't like that kind of guy, so they're not trying to appeal to that wing specifically. Does that make sense? Are you telling me doomsdayers are centrist? No, conservative has different meanings in different contexts. I mean that those doomsday preppers wish the NRA went more hog wild with their advocacy, you know? Like, they wish the NRA would put out more videos on, like, how to become Rambo and elude the police in the forests of Cascadia and, like, you know, take shots that... what best firearms for penetrating the like, side doors of police vehicles. That bullshit, you know? Like, there's, like, a type of freak the NRA hasn't been super aggressive about appealing to. That kind of shit. Anyway, hold on. I kind of want to see, you know, I kind of want to see how it goes with this fella, because I'm sort of rooting and tooting a little bit with him, you know?
A deadly school shooting that was committed by a transgender individual in Minneapolis, prompting calls among right-wing voices to scrutinize what they view as transgender-related violence. And well, let's be honest, if you look at this last several school shootings, it's an issue. It's a pattern. And no.
All right, well, at least we know he's not coming in it from a woke perspective. All right, King, show us what you got.
Official DOJ comment on the specific measures as of yet. They're only confirming that a spectrum of options is on the table. And before going further, let's clarify what gender dysphoria means.
Please.
Clinically defined, gender dysphoria describes significant emotional distress caused when a person's biological sex and gender identity do not align. It's recognized on the DSM-5, and importantly, the condition itself isn't inherently linked to violence or instability, meaning just because they have it doesn't mean that they are violent or unstable. That's an action they would have to take. Now, in transgender and LG...
It's a logical fallacy, okay? Only one half of trans bitches are annoying, murderous freaks. Come on.
LGBTQ plus individuals are far more often victims of violence than they are perpetrators.
Oh my fucking god. I can't believe I'm in a pocket universe right now. Holy shit. We're crafting new chud jacks, like, out of the filament right now. Jesus Christ, we're pulling them out of the fucking ether. What's the, pro-trans four-square political quadrant? Like, you keep your hands off our transgenders, they're part of Western culture?
Perpetrators. For instance, in 2024, an analysis showed that LGBTQ plus people are more than twice as likely to become victims of gun violence compared to straight folks.
This is a real libertarian right here. Yes, this is ideologically consistent libertarianism. Rare as it is to see it applied. Yeah, listen, I'm not going to hate, okay?
All that aside, put that all aside. You have a right, and the government doesn't give you the right. If you didn't commit some type of violent crime that a court or jury of your peers says you...
No one tell Vosh about InRange TV. I know InRange TV. You don't need to... Don't you patronize me. I've been in the space for a long time. I know who InRange TV is.
...the right stripped for a period of time, or a doctor says you are unstable for whatever reason, the government doesn't get their hand to play here. Tying a medical condition directly to violent risk is kind of misleading and potentially dangerous, and potentially a violation of people's due process rights. That's like somebody else in the next administration saying that anybody who has Down syndrome is dangerous, or somebody who has color blindness is unstable. You can't just...
I think this is another ideological schism that they're going to have a really difficult time circling, because for literal decades, for this guy's entire life, the rhetoric has been, the government wants to take your guns away. They will use legislation and administrative overreach to do so. They will redefine whatever they need to find excuses. If they say anything like includes within it a propensity for violence, like that is now a legitimate pathway to target you. And keep in mind that for a lot of these people, they do not interact with trans people. They don't live in a world that is full of trans people. Not everyone lives in Seattle or downtown Chicago or whatever. But his life is filled with guns and gun paranoia. So to him, like, the rhetoric about trans people feels distant, far away, abstract, theoretical. But the rhetoric of the DOJ saying, yeah, we're going to take those mentally ill people's guns away, that's right here. That's immediate. That instantly activates like 1,000 arguments that this guy's had in his head and made videos about. In a way, it's a little bit heartening, I'll admit. Yeah, they only learn about trans people through the information bubble, but about like guns and firearms and stuff, you know, I think they have a much more robust range of information, even if it's usually informed by paranoia.
Blanketly take people's rights away. You guys tell me if I'm off base here, but for nearly a century...
Sorry, you have this homosexual socialist cosign, my friend. I think you're cooking with this one.
Crow laws were a set of state and local statutes, mostly here in the South, that enforced radical segregation against Black Americans. So what's different of this type of rule, policy, or law that's going to segregate against transgender folks? I don't know. Again, constitutional...
Maybe he met a trans girl on Grindr and learned it all from her. God bless. I will, like, this is... Remember how I've said before that American fascism is very libertarian coded? So even when the far right does stuff that's anti-freedom, they do it through mechanisms that are meant to look like they value things like meritocracy. Like the far right in America is unlikely to get away with, passing the law that makes black people second-class citizens, but they can pass the law that makes poor people second-class citizens, and then take advantage of the fact that black people are more likely to fall into that category, right? There's a libertarian coding. The Trump administration talks constantly about freedom, even for people on the left. There's not as much of a broader acceptance that the state should get to engage in overreach to cramp down on people. Like the big overreach from the government right now is on immigration law, right? Going after illegal immigrants. But even that is being done in the context of they've broken the law, therefore they deserve this. Does that make sense? Like, they are, with the exception of some extremely far-right people who are basically open Hitlerites, people like Stephen Miller, right? Stephen Miller does not give a fuck about meritocracy. But, like, most people on the right are not like Stephen Miller. Most people on the right don't want to create a white ethno-state. They just think that black people have too much, they're too criminal because they listen to too much rap music or whatever. They don't think all trans people should be put in camps. They think that trans people are the victims of a cultural epidemic that have convinced them to do something harmful to themselves. They don't think that all Mexicans are bad. They think that illegal immigrants are ruining for the legal Mexicans or whatever. Like, for the most part, the right is still operating along those principles. And those are, by the way, disingenuous and universally harmful principles. They're dishonest. They're not like good versions of those belief systems. They're still bad. They're basically the PC versions of doing open outright discrimination. Does that make sense?
Second Amendment activist. Today, a proposal to ban the entire class of people, the individuals that are transgender folks, from carrying firearms feels eerily similar in its function to the Jim Crow laws, using a law to block a specific group from
We are so fucking back.
exercising a right, or a policy, which is even worse. Now, the right to bear arms is protected under the Second Amendment, fundamental to American liberty.
I like the good ones type logic. Yeah, and I know that it's frustrating and it's a low bar, but it's so important to remember that the difference between a person who says, I'm okay with the good ones, and the person who says, I'm not even okay with the good ones, is massive. In fact, I would argue that there is a greater difference between those two people than there are between, I'm okay with all of them, and I'm okay with the good ones. I think that, like, conditional meritocratic acceptance is closer to universal acceptance than outright denial is to conditional acceptance. Like, that is a big gap you have to jump.
It's kind of odd that we're even talking about this. Now, while history doesn't exactly repeat itself here between Jim Crow laws and this potential new change at the DOJ, the structural similarities are striking.
I'll check the comments
Defining
after.
one's identity as a reason to restrict a constitutional right. Now, some will say, hey, look, the Trump administration, the president's already done a couple executive orders related to stuff like this dysphoria, or, men and women's bathrooms and locker rooms, and transgenders in the military. I understand all that. I get that. But the legal and constitutional issue that I'm talking about here is denying a class of individuals the ability to purchase firearms solely due to a medical diagnosis. And that kind of raises red flags.
Goddamn. Yeah, I guess for me, the litmus test was always like, and maybe this is too optimistic of me, but I've always believed that the average American conservative, even under MAGA, even today, would be like the average white, ruroid, conservative, whatever, would be cool with having a black neighbor. Not only cool with, but like it would make no difference to them because it would be one of the good ones. I think it's a meaningful distinction, that kind of like hypocritical, partial lack of bigotry, that like proximate bias where you're like, okay, well, I might be watching a bunch of Fox News articles on how, downtown is dangerous or whatever, but, I'm still susceptible to the interpersonal experiences that will allow me to enjoy the company of others. I don't know. By the way, can we have a conversation about the ruroid thing? I have heard that the fact that the ruroid word is so funny to you guys has really been getting in the way of some like PV phone banking stuff. I'm taking that away from you guys. As always, as is the case with like the ironic sexist jokes, you have no idea what makes things funny. You just roll with it because you've been given permission to use like new terminology. Sorry, no. It's like how you guys have been begging for me to talk, like shit on the roids when we're talking about fucking finance or something. Like people in chat are like, "Oh, here comes another." Like, what are you talking about, man? And like how you people keep saying India is also lion every time India comes up, even if it has nothing to do with Indians supporting white supremacist movements abroad. Why do you guys do that? You have like a reflex. You no conditional respect for the purpose of the comedy. You run into the ground completely. I'm just putting you guys on notice in a way that gets reflected in the segment because that shit's going on YouTube, okay? It pisses me the fuck off.
Around equal protection under the 14th Amendment, let alone the psychological-based disability discrimination that could be alleged too.
There's no excuse for not being funny.
If the actual intent is to block dangerous individuals, laws already exist regarding mental health holds and in certain cases the loss of their rights. But targeting a demographic based on identity sets a dangerous discriminatory precedent. And finally, I want you to consider the danger of a government official...
I think we got the gist. All right, this guy's a warrior for wokeness. Good to know. Guns and Gadgets, Second Amendment news. And it looks like people in chat are agreeable. If they ban guns for some, they will ban for all. If they can ban for one, they will ban for all. No state shall make or infringe any law which abridges their rights. Everyone has the right to defend themselves. I'm a veteran. I've taken the oath to uphold. Thank you for respecting my rights. The DOJ doesn't get to make law. Nice. Under no pretext. Live from the Oval Office. Yeah, just 1 second. I should have shown this at the beginning, by the way, but like this is the context that we're looking at with the DOJ. From a White House correspondent from the Daily Wire. She's a Hitlerite, by the way. Mary Olahan. I'm told that a senior DOJ official said, discussing the matter, quote, "We're not playing semantics with words like dysphoria. We're talking about," I can't say this word from YouTube, "the T-slur, and we don't think they should have guns." This signals to me two things. For one, these are Hitlerites. And for two, this is vice signaling. There's absolutely no way forward, no legal path forward for denying trans people the right to own guns without legally defining dysphoria. It's not possible. There's no way you can write in crayon in the ATF, no T-slurs allowed. Like, it signals to me that these people are deeply unserious, but that they would also put you all in death camps if they could. So, just keep that in mind. That's the kind of person we're dealing with.